We're looking at the entire lineup of ice barrels, from the Ice Barrel 400 to the Ice Barrel 300, and now the all-new Ice Barrel 500. In this video, we're going to do a deep dive review of the new Ice Barrel 500, but we're also going to do some comparisons. Let's jump right in. Before we talk about every detail of the Ice Barrel 500, let's do a quick comparison between the 500 and the original Ice Barrel 400. Now, obviously, at first glance, there's a huge difference in the size and there's a huge difference in the look, but there's a few other major differences that you probably want to be aware of. One, the Ice Barrel 400 is made of a recycled plastic made right here in the USA, as well as the rest of the Ice Barrel lineup. But one thing to know is the Ice Barrel 400 does not have any insulation at all. And there's a few key reasons as to why, and we'll get into those here in a second. But the biggest difference is the Ice Barrel 500 is fully insulated from the base all the way up to the lid. And what that means is that if you're planning on using ice, doing a traditional ice bath, the Ice Barrel 500 is going to keep your water colder much longer. But on the contrary, the Ice Barrel 400 is much lighter, weighing in at 55 pounds empty compared to its big brother, the Ice Barrel 500, which weighs 104 pounds empty. So the big key difference, I would say, is if you plan on moving this around a lot, taking it from gym to gym or to events, the Ice Barrel 400 is a phenomenal choice if you're looking for something extremely durable, extremely lightweight, and somewhere where you can house a nice ice bath. A few other simple differences to note is the Ice Barrel 400 comes with a step stool, which is mobile, and you do not have to use it, but it is something that you will want to use. Whereas the Ice Barrel 500 now has built-in steps, which make getting in and out extremely easy for all body types. And one of the last details that might be one of the most important is that the Ice Barrel 500 is chiller ready. There's ports on the side ready for you to hook up a chiller if that's the route you decide to go. Whereas if you do an Ice Barrel 400 and you want to use a chiller, there is some DIY skills required, but don't worry, I have videos where I can show you exactly how to do that if that's the route you want to go. And now to do a quick comparison between the Ice Barrel 500 and the Ice Barrel 300. Both are fully insulated. Both are chiller ready. So if you do plan on using ice, it's going to keep your water colder longer. If you do plan on using a chiller, on the other hand, it's going to make it very, very easy to hook up a chiller. Now, some of the biggest differences you will easily notice is that the Ice Barrel 500 is large. This is meant for people up to 7 foot tall to have a very easy and very comfortable cold plunging experience. Whereas the Ice Barrel 300 is amazing. It's fully insulated and has a lot of the same features. However, it is meant for people under 6'2", and I'm 6'1", and I'm right on that cusp, so I can tell you that I do enjoy my cold plunge in the Ice Barrel 300, but I'm excited to start using the Ice Barrel 500 because it has a lot more room inside. I'm gonna rattle off a lot of the comparison details later on in the video, but I wanted to do a quick comparison because I do think if you're watching this video, you should know what's available to you out there. So now let's jump deeper into the Ice Barrel 500 itself. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. The Ice Barrel 500, the newest of the ice barrels, fully insulated with a polyurethane foam all the way throughout, from the base, through the steps, through the sidewalls, all the way into the lid. This is going to keep your water very cold, very long, whether you decide to use ice or you decide to use a chiller. The cool thing about how insulated it is you will not need to use a large chiller to keep this water cold. And I'll have future videos where I explain exactly what type of chiller I would recommend using for this, but the cool thing is I can see using a smaller chiller is probably going to work just as good because of all the insulation. Now, the price currently is $14.99, and if you do decide you want to get one, I have one of the only links available for you to get one, and that'll be down in the description below, or you can just type it into your computer right now. It's DMJR, David Moss Jr., dmjr.co/500. That'll take you right to the landing page of the Ice Barrel 500, the only place you can purchase the Ice Barrel 500 right now. And the good news is you can also use discount code MAUS, that's MAUS, and save 15% on any of the barrels, including the 500. As I mentioned before, this thing weighs 104 pounds, fully empty. It's a massive plunge, so it is a little bit difficult to move by yourself. But underneath it, there are some easy to grab handles. So if you do have a friend with you, it's not heavy, it's just big. It makes it very easy for you to pick it up and move it anywhere that you want to move it. And one of the things I absolutely love about Ice Barrel is they're super duper durable. Let's go ahead and pop this lid off now. The lid actually has Ice Barrel's core values. Live mindfully, be wildly courageous, lead with the heart, and be playfully curious. I love the mission statement of Ice Barrel. Been a big fan for a very long time. But now let's take a peek inside. So at first glance, this is the first time I've been able to see inside the Ice Barrel 500 without water. If you saw the video of me at Wadapalooza, they already had it filled up with water, they already had it filled up with ice, and I was able to get in and experience that cold plunge, but I wasn't able to see the inside. And there's a lot more room in here than I thought. I'm gonna take some measurements because when I first looked at it, I was afraid that the bench was gonna cause me to not be able to get underwater. But now that I can see it empty, there's actually a lot more room on this side where it shouldn't be difficult for anybody over 6 foot to actually get fully submerged in the Ice Barrel 500. So we'll go ahead and check that out too. So I just measured the Ice Barrel 400 because to me, the Ice Barrel 400 has the widest amount of room. It's easy for you to get fully submerged and there seems to be a lot of room. At the widest point of the Ice Barrel 400, it's 30 inches. And for the Ice Barrel 500, the widest point is 32 inches from back to front. Now, because it has a little bit of a rectangular shape, the side here is 26 inches. Now there's a bench down here that you're able to sit on, or you can turn sideways and sit down here in the deeper end, as I'll call it. The bench is only 11 inches by 11 inches. So I know the original concern was, hey, it's bigger, but there's a bench inside. Am I gonna be able to get fully submerged if I'm over 6 foot tall? And the short answer is yes, you absolutely can. But I would love to see the same exact footprint done without a bench at some point as an option. But that's just me. And now for the exterior measurements. Even though you can find these online, I just like to go ahead and give them to you so you have all the information in one place. So lengthwise, we're looking at exactly 57.6 inches long. Widthwise, we're looking at 30.7 inches at the widest point. And then height-wise, without the lid is 39 inches, but with the lid, we're looking at 42.1 inches tall. And then just to confirm, it's 104 pounds completely dry and can hold 94 gallons of water. I've mentioned that it's chiller ready, and if you don't know what that means, basically that means that Ice Barrel has went ahead and put 2 ports where water can go into the barrel and also come out of the barrel going through a chiller. And I'll show you in a little bit what that might look like if you did a DIY, but it makes it super easy having the ports. On the Ice Barrel 400, I had to drill my own holes, so it's nice that it's already done on the Ice Barrel 500. Basically, the bottom down here is where your spigot is, so you can attach a hose to this, or you can literally just close it off and fill it up with ice water. And then what you'll do is this is where the water will come out, go through a pump and a chiller and a filter, and then the hose will come back into the top, and it'll create a nice little circle and a little cycle of water flow inside your Ice Barrel 500, keeping your water clean, keeping your water cold at a specific temperature that you set. And that's the benefit of using a chiller versus just using ice, is it's very easy for you to manage the exact temperature that you're getting into. Another nice thing is at the bottom down here inside the barrel, there's a pre-filter to keep larger debris from going into your hose, potentially going into your chiller and your pump and potentially damaging it. So it's nice that they already put that pre-filter on the inside of the Ice Barrel 500. They also have that on the Ice Barrel 300. Now I felt it's kind of cool to show the bottom down here. So that's the insulation under the actual tub itself. They've got these nice little spots around the side, so it's easy to put your fingers in and lift when it's time to lift. And then obviously over here, you have a much larger space, and it's kind of a cool place to hide things if you wanted to. But then you'd probably never be able to get it because it's full of water and it'd be very, very heavy. So scratch that, don't hide stuff under there. It's safe to say that the steps got a major upgrade from the 400 to the 500, where these are small step stools that get you up there and make it easier for you to physically get yourself into the 400. These steps are made for everybody. They're much larger, they've got a nice grip to them, they're obviously not gonna move, and they're a part of the plunge, so it makes it a very stable experience when you're climbing up and getting in. One of the things that I love about cold plunging is it's really good for everybody. I've had my father-in-law who's in his 60s come over and get into my ice barrel, and a lot of times we don't realize this if you're younger and if you're athletic and you're limber, but getting into a slippery tub doesn't phase us. But if you're a little bit older and you're a little bit more fragile, it might phase you. But for the crowd that's a little bit older, a little bit more fragile, and they're really looking forward to the benefits of cold water therapy, it could be a little bit scary getting into a slippery tub, not knowing if you're gonna be able to get yourself back out. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to imagine, but it's a reality for some. So it's nice that Ice Barrel puts a nice grippy texture and makes it a very stable, very safe plunge for all ages and all body types to experience the benefits of cold water therapy. At this point, we've talked about a lot of the details of the 500, and I wanna do a better job comparing the 500 to its little brothers, the 400 and the 300. But I do wanna also ask you if I've answered all of your questions on the 500, and if there's anything that you need help with, or if there's anything that I did not go over at this point about the 500 specifically, please ask those questions down in the comments below. I will find you all of the answers. And then once again, if you want more detailed information on the Ice Barrel 500, just visit dmjr.co/500, and that'll bring you right to the 500 landing page, and it gives you all the information that Ice Barrel is sharing currently. That's also where you can purchase one if you decide you want to do so. But now I'd like to talk about the exact differences of each of these and list off some of the comparisons. I'm going to put them on the screen so you can look at it all in one place. And we'll start with the Ice Barrel 400. So at time of shooting this video, the Ice Barrel 400 is $11.99. It's 31 inches wide, but it's a full circle, so it's also 31 inches long. And it is 42 inches tall. It's designed for people up to 6'6", but I've also seen taller people get into it and have a great experience. It only weighs 55 pounds completely empty. It can hold 105 gallons, so it holds a lot of water, and it is made to be used with just ice, or you can do a DIY chiller edition like I've shown a lot of people how to do, and I'll have that link down in the description below if you want to check that video out too. Now let's jump over to the Ice Barrel 300. The 300 is also $11.99 at time of shooting this video. Similar to the 400, it is a full circle, so it is 35.5 inches wide and long, and it is 30.5 inches tall. It's definitely the shortest of the three, but there's a benefit to not having to use a step stool or stairs to get in it. Because of its size, it's rated for people up to 6'2". It weighs 61 pounds completely dry. It can hold 77 gallons of water, which is the smallest amount of water of the three, and you can use it with ice or a chiller. Inside the Ice Barrel 300, there's also a nice little seat that's molded in with armrests, so it's designed to have a very comfortable ice bath and cold plunging experience. And now we'll compare these two to the stats of the 500, which this at time of shooting this video is $14.99. It is 57.6 inches long, 30.7 inches wide, and if you're curious, that will fit right through any standard doorway, and it is 42 inches tall. This is rated for people up to 7 foot tall, so it's the biggest of them all. And because of its large mass and the fact that the entire thing is fully insulated, it weighs 104 pounds completely empty and holds 94 gallons of water. And similar to the 300, it is fully insulated, you can use ice, and it is also chiller ready. Now, a few facts about Ice Barrel is everything you see here is made right here in the USA with recycled BPA-free material. They use a polyurethane insulation for these two, and they're built to last. Because of that, Ice Barrel gives you a limited lifetime warranty, and something not a lot of people know is you can purchase any of these Ice Barrels using your HSA or your FSA funds. And then once again, if you want any more detailed information, I'll have links down in the description below, or you can just visit dmjr.co/Ice Barrel to have access to all of Ice Barrel's options. And then I just realized I have all three of the Ice Barrels next to each other. What kind of a review would this be if I didn't get in all three of them with water and show you what a 6'1", 200-ish pound person can look like inside of these? So let's go ahead and do a full test of all three of these, one after the other. I'm gonna go get some ice while I fill these up, and we're gonna have some fun with it, all right? Let's do it. So we're filling them up, and now we're gonna run to the store and pick up some ice. I'm gonna try to get like 15, maybe 20 bags, something like that. We're gonna get a lot of ice this time, because we're gonna make it nice and cold for this test. So I just spent $70 on ice, and that got me 19 bags, 7-pound bags of ice. So you can see where like there's a benefit to going the chiller route. You know, it's a one-time expense, and it really makes a lot of sense depending on where you live. And I get questions all the time where people are asking me, you know, how long does the water stay cold? How much ice do you have to put in it? Those are great questions, and to be totally transparent with you, it's really like per case. I live in Florida, you know, it's February right now, and it's 75 degrees outside. So, and my ice barrels are baking in the sun. They're not under cover, they're not in a garage. So it's gonna depend on where you have your barrel, where you have your cold plunge set. It's gonna depend on the ambient air. It's gonna depend on your use, how often you use it. Just know, if you use a chiller with a filter, your water's always gonna be cold, and then it's gonna more than likely always be clean. If you use ice, yeah, you're gonna have to continue that ice. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of that information because I have that question so often. And I just have to tell you, experiment with it. Start with ice, play around with that, and you can always add a chiller later. For this next part, I think it's very important to talk about how do you actually cool the water down in your ice barrels. There's a few different ways. Traditionally, you can just go buy ice. That's what we did today because I was really unprepared and I wanted to make sure that I had cold water when I did my dunk test here. So we've got ice here that you can go purchase every time that you need. You can buy an industrial size ice maker, which can be a little expensive. And from what I hear, there could be a lot of maintenance there. Ice Barrel offers these beautiful silicone molds, which help you make big blocks of ice. You can make 1.5 pound blocks of ice. They're stackable, so you can put them in your freezer. And then the third way, which is really the most practical way if you live in a place like I live here in Florida, and that is doing a chiller. So the water in that barrel is the exact set temperature that I want it to be every time. If I want to go a little bit colder one day, I can do it. If I want to go a little bit warmer one day, I can do it. I can change it based off how I'm feeling. So I love the ease of using a chiller, but there's so many other ways. For today, we're going to be using a chiller with our Ice Barrel 300. We're going to be using ice for our Ice Barrel 400 and our Ice Barrel 500. And there it is. This is the Ice Barrel 300. So it is fully insulated. It is the roundest and the widest of all of the options. There are 2 armrests over here on the side, so I can easily get my shoulders underwater, having my arms elevated. You are sitting in a cross-legged position, like you would be sitting on the floor. There is a little bench on the back side. It sticks up about 4 inches, so it's elevated just enough to make for a comfortable experience. And if you are taller and you do want to get fully underwater, a lot of people have been turning around to where the back of my neck would be on this side where there's no bench, and it makes it easier for me to go ahead and cradle on in and get fully underwater. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate that so you can see how to get fully underwater in the Ice Barrel 300. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Totally capable of getting underwater. It is definitely going to take some mobility. You do need to be able to kind of crunch down and get into the fetal position to get fully underwater. But you can get a majority of the same benefits by just getting the back of your neck, your vagus nerve underwater. And a lot of the benefits that people love, like the skin tightening effects, you can get by simply just putting your face underwater. But this is the Ice Barrel 300. It's a very comfortable plunge. You do have nice rounded, comfortable edges that where if you want to rest your neck on. But let's go ahead and jump in the Ice Barrel 400 and do a full comparison. All right, now let's get in the Ice Barrel 400. So you got to step up and over. This does take a little mobility as well to kind of get yourself shimmied in there. So we put some ice in here today. Woo, woo, woo. It's such a different feeling when you get into ice water as opposed to just cold water with a chiller. So there's some benefits and some different feelings to both. So don't feel bad if you are gonna be using ice, and don't feel bad if you're gonna be using chiller. It's a different experience. So in the Ice Barrel 400, I'm literally on my knees right now. There's so much room at the bottom that I'm on my knees. And what I love is that I can get myself into a squatted position. Right now my knees are straight. I feel like I'm sitting in a chair at school. The water's all the way up to my neck. And if you hear water pouring out, that's the DIY hole on the back side here that the water is draining out of right now. This is the easiest of pretty much any of the cold plunges I've been in to get fully underwater and stay fully underwater for as long as you want. A few things to note. Same thing, you have these round edges. A couple things that I feel need to change in the Ice Barrel 400 is these edges at the bottom are really sharp. And the first couple times I got down, I kind of shot myself up and I scratched my back really bad on the bottom side of where this lip kind of comes over. So maybe there's some future design changes that can happen there. Maybe adding some insulation. I've always been a fan of the Ice Barrel 400. If it had the insulation and still kept the same amount of room inside, I think it would be like cream of the crop. But regardless, the Ice Barrel 400 still holds a special place in my heart, and it's always been one of my favorite cold plunge experiences. Now let's go check out the Ice Barrel 500 and compare. Now let's experience the Ice Barrel 500. So much easier to get into with the steps, the huge steps. Oh no, I don't want to lose all this beautiful ice. Pro tip, when you're filling up any of your ice barrels for the first time, when you get that water to about 3/4 of the way up, before you put ice in it, before it's cold, get into the water and fill it up the rest of the way so you can figure out where your fill line needs to be so that this doesn't happen every time you get in and waste ice. Allow me to demonstrate. Woo! Now I know that looked really cool on camera and it looks really, really cool for pictures, but the last thing you want to do after you spent $70 on ice is get in and have half of it overflow out of your barrel. This one's a little cold. I put most of the ice in here. So let's talk about this experience, right? So it's more of a rectangle. So it gives you a really good chance to lean into it. And same thing, you can keep your legs nice and straight. Your arms can spread out nice and wide. There's a lot of room in here for the shoulders. Even though it's longer than it is wide, there's still plenty of room for the shoulders. And most of the cold plunges on the market are between 22 and 24 inches on the inside. This is 26. So you have a little bit more room on the width, but you definitely have more room on the length. I've seen a few of the taller guys go in kind of like this and do the same thing they would do in the Ice Barrel 400, sit kind of Indian style, and it makes it really easy to get underwater if you're taller. But let's talk about getting underwater in this, because I'm 6'1". I definitely feel like there's a lot more room in here than there is in the 300. I still love the 400 because there is no bench. That's one of my favorite things about that. But let's talk about getting underwater if this is what your goal is. If you want to get underwater in the 500, this is what you'll do. It seems like you'll have to kind of get maybe a little bit at the side, but there's plenty of room. So let's check it out. So you can get underwater sideways, or if you really just want to drop down, you can get all the way underwater doing it this way, depending on how tall you are. But I've seen a few people get almost like this, kind of like in a little bit of a, like, yeah, okay, there's actually plenty of room. So I'm sitting with my knees crossed down at the bottom, just like I would in the Icebarrel 400, and it's practically the same size, so that makes sense. This is probably the way I would do it. I didn't even have to really try. That was actually super easy. So when I want to do full submersions, all I'm going to do is turn around just like this and literally just bow down and get fully underwater. So there's definitely more room in here, even with the bench, than a lot of people have been asking, because I got the opportunity to get into this thing at Wadapalooza and really test it out and put the first content on YouTube about it. So I had a few people reach out to me privately, but all in all, after reviewing all of these and comparing all three of them side by side, I'm really impressed with the Icebarrel 500. I still think I love the Icebarrel 400. I really wish it came insulated, but it was also like my first cold plunge that I fell in love with, so it holds a special place in my heart. I'm really excited to hook my chiller up to the Icebarrel 500 and put this right here in my corner as my daily plunge, but that's for another video. So let's talk about some final thoughts. For me, as somebody who's reviewed and looked at many of the cold plunges on the market, from the tubs to the inflatables to the coolers, all the way to the Icebarrel products, I would say that the Icebarrel 500 is gonna be a game changer for many people. And here's why. There's a lot of people getting into cold plunging because of the mental and the physical benefits of all ages and of all shapes and sizes. And one of the things I hear holds people back the most is the fear of getting into a tub, getting relaxed down into a tub that might be a little bit slippery, and then not being able to get out. Being able to get into something like this that has a bench, that has a nice grippy texture, that has this nice plastic material too, creates what would feel to be a safer environment. And for many people, that's the biggest holdup. So to have stable steps, a stable platform that's steady and easy to get up and get into, to have a bench that you can sit down on and really adjust yourself to get comfortable, it's gonna make a lot of people feel safer and a little bit more comfortable getting into the icy cold water. And one of the last things that I truly love is that Icebarrel has three amazing products that are all three totally different. Like, they all serve a different purpose. If you're taller and you want to spend time underwater, go for the Icebarrel 400. If you're a little shorter and you're cool with getting that water to your shoulders and you just want a comfortable, small footprint cold plunge that's gonna hold your icy cold water cold for a long period of time, well, the Icebarrel 300 is perfect for you. And if you're somebody who's looking for just a Mac Daddy, big statement piece of a cold plunge that's gonna keep your water nice and cold for a long period of time, it's gonna be safe for all shapes, all sizes, and all ages, I think the Icebarrel 500 is a perfect one for you. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, pop them down in the comments below. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm gonna fire up this sweat tent. It's a perfect day to do some contrast therapy, which is something I highly recommend. A matter of fact, if you wanna check out a little bit more information on the sweat tent sauna, check out this video right here. I think you're gonna really enjoy this one next. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great day, and God bless.